Have you ever found yourself in that gap between knowing what you need to do and then actually doing it? I know I have. And in this episode, I'm going to introduce you to a new friend of mine who is going to bring to light 3 simple routines that you can do to close that gap and find that peace with food and feeling your best and getting those results that you want. So, welcome to episode 23 of the Light Her Way podcast. Today, we're talking about the power of creating simple routines to improve your relationship with food and get the results you want. My special guest today is Tanja Shaw. She is a certified high performance coach, nutritional therapy practitioner, kinesiologist, health and wellness and weight loss coach, and the founder of Ascend Fitness and Lifestyle Health Studio, and founder of the Fit and Vibrant You coaching programs, and the host of the Fit and Vibrant You podcast. You guys are going to be so delighted when you hear what Tanja has to share. She's amazing. And so without further ado, let's go. Okay. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Lighter Way podcast. I'm so excited to have my new friend, Tanja Shaw, here. She is just amazing. We met through the Your Healthiest Years Yet Summit and just instantly connected. And so I can't wait to share her with you today. She has so many golden nuggets. And so, Tanja, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much for having me. And out there listening, I'm so glad that you're here.
Yes. And so let's go ahead and dive in because you have so much just juicy information to share, and we align in so many ways, but in some we have a slightly different perspective. So I'm looking forward to talking about just creating some simple routines to improve your relationship with food and just get those results, especially as we're heading into the holidays, right? And, as we talked about before, I've had my own struggle with my relationship with food. And thankfully, I'm on the other side of it. Not that I'm ever finished, right? It's a continuing journey.
100%.
But I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and your journey with finding, improving your relationship with food.
Yeah, thank you. So I help women over 50 who have been struggling with their weight and their diet for a big part of their life to take back control over food, to ditch all the BS diet rules and start to feel good in their body, and so that they can go live their life. And we often teach what we need ourselves. So I started my health and wellness journey by me back as a teenager. I love fitness. I love moving my body. I fell in love with running and more individual sports because of how it made my body feel. I remember in grade 12 going for a long run and just getting so creative and excited after that. So I really loved the impact. So then I went to school to learn more about kinesiology and human movement and all the good things. And at the same time, right after my degree in kinesiology, I started working as a kinesiologist at a physiotherapy clinic. And at that point, I did my very first diet. So I was 21 at the time. I had lost weight and gained weight, throughout your teenage years, as you do when, for different things that happen. I was always very aware of how much I weighed, even as a 13 or 12-year-old, I knew that. But when I was 21, someone put me on, actually it was isogenics, and it was this 9-day cleanse kind of thing. And I lost, I think 7 pounds in 9 days. And I felt so good. And a lot of people, when they do that, they start to develop, like they go back and forth. Like they do this thing, they feel good, they go off track. But mine developed into a very disordered relationship with food in more of an obsessive way. I would really restrict. I would weigh myself multiple times a day. I would do double workouts so I could become a smaller size. I was just so obsessed. And it's the same result. I'm sure it's a different result for the same problem, which is not having a great relationship with yourself, judging your own self-worth on a number on the scale, fearing food. I would go from, being really, really good to just overdoing it and eating all the things and falling way off track. And I was just missing out on life. And that was the aha moment for me, is when I realized that at the end of my life, I would look back and just be so disappointed and be so regretful that I missed out on so many opportunities of life because I was fearing food or trying to control food. And it just made me really sad, honestly. Like when we go through these things, we don't really realize what the actual cost of these habits are.
Mm.
And when Stephen Covey says begin with the end in the mind, and that habit of his book really resonates with me, is that what you want your life to be? Is that how you want to remember your life? And at the same time, I was coaching men and women in my fitness studio, and I was giving them these really intense 28-day challenge nutrition plans, which was so low in calories and fats and nutrition, and getting them to do these big workouts. And yes, they lost weight, and they would tell you that that's the one thing that worked for them. I'm like, it didn't work because you were not able to ever sustain it. And working with women and men over over many years, getting very personal with them, because personal training is very personal, I realized that there was so much more to their health and wellness journey than just what they were putting in their mouth, like the just eat less carbs or stop eating after dinner, and how they're moving their body. There was such a deeper emotional connection to all of it. And there was a reason why they knew they knew what to do. That was this easy part, but actually the follow through was a whole different story. And so I set out to really fill that gap between the knowing and the doing, to find what's the missing link between all of this information, but then actually being consistent. And that has been a journey now since 2015 is when I really got clarity that I could no longer do what I was doing. And yes, just like yourself, you're never there. Like there's no arriving. There's no, hey, like wipe your hands off of this and I'm done. It's a continuous journey, and it's a beautiful journey because through that you learn so much about yourself and about life and your values, and you challenge old beliefs, and it really trickles into all aspects of your life. So it's a really amazing journey that we get to be on. One of my clients said to me, she's like, it's work, but it's good work. And
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah. And I think that's why so many of us who are life coaches delve into the wellness, or a wellness coach, we delve into the life coaching, because you can't separate the two. I mean, I guess you can, but you're not going to get lasting results. If you have somebody that's just coaching you on do this diet, do this workout, and not addressing the underlying beliefs and mindset, nothing changes. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me. I was literally, I don't know if I shared this with you when we talked before. I was literally paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to someone who was giving me like Chinese medicine, all this kind of stuff. I would pay her for these supplements and these tests, and then I would go to Starbucks and get a frappuccino, like sometimes 3 times a day. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was not helping. And so I think it's just so important, especially to talk with amazing women like you, to share this message and bring this awareness, because for us, we're in this circle of coaches and peers, we talk about it all the time, but not everyone is aware that there's this mindset under this. It's not your fault. It's not the diet. It's not that it works for everyone else but you. There's just more to it. And sometimes it can just feel so overwhelming and a little scary to think, oh, I'm going to have to dive deeper. Now I'm going to have to challenge my beliefs. And I know for me, it's been such a, when I say unraveling, it's not in a negative way, right? But it's like you start pulling this thread and you realize all these things that go way, way back. For me, food was comfort. Food was a reward. So it was always there. And I was always self-conscious of my weight, and it wasn't until I realized like my thoughts about food and my desires of what I want, like they don't go together. I'm just fighting myself. And it was kind of just in that moment of surrender, I realized I have to change the way I think. um that was just kind of like a divine moment. I figured I figured that out and started on my journey. So I think it's also important, this podcast will go out around the holidays. So it's just so important to remember too, like you said, we don't want to have regrets. We want to be in those family photos.
Yeah.
Honestly, my journey started because I was freaking out about having my picture taken at my youngest son's wedding. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in photographs, right? And that's so sad, because you think about, as time goes on, you want your family to have photos of you. They love you as you are, right?
100%. You said two things there, Robin, that I want to really just draw out because I think it's really important, that you're right. When you start this journey, there can be some fears about uncovering things that you may not want to uncover. A
Mm,
lot of women I work with have, I mean, every woman I work with has some degree of trauma in their life. We all do,
yeah.
but some have some pretty major trauma and some major things that they're working through. But
Mhm.
trust that you are going to only go as far as you are ready at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'll stretch a little bit. But you start with these surface beliefs, and then over time, when you have that more trusting relationship with yourself, you start to learn more about yourself. Just trust that you will be ready. And when the time is right, it might be a while. This is why there's no rushing, there's no
Mhm.
getting there, to dive into those things. And the other thing you said there about the living life with regrets and around, especially around the holidays, we often have this black or white thinking where they're mother like restricting and being like super good, or I'm eating all the things and we're like, live a little, eat the pie, eat the cake, life's too short, you're going to die anyway. And there needs to be a middle ground behind between all of that. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, where um, it's not as clear cut as like this or that. And it's more about playing in the gray, because living a little isn't eating all of the things. That doesn't feel good. We know that, we've been there, we've done that. Like and it's starting to be to work on the mindset and to be honest with yourself, to realize that you can go and have a great time and enjoy your holidays and make better choices, like looking for the and versus the I'm either, sticking to my plan 100% and, eating no carbs or mashed potatoes or gravy or peppermint pie or whatever is going on, or I am eating all the things with it and having no boundaries at all. It's really about finding that and what that looks like for you. And you're absolutely right. It's where your thoughts go. Because if we focus on all the things that we're missing out on, all the things that, oh, I can't have that, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that, yeah, you're going to feel deprived. But if you focus on the fact that you can have most of it and you want to feel better, and you're like, we get so focused on what we're missing out on in terms of like the food, but
Yeah.
what we're really missing out on is feeling good in our bodies
Yes.
and
Oh,
feeling
that's so good.
energetic and
Yeah.
wanting to go and live your life. So we got to be a bit honest with ourselves and just direct our thoughts in the way that's actually going to be helpful,
Yeah.
versus just focusing on all like the things we can't have, because you can't have it. You're an adult. You get to choose. There's
Yeah.
choices and there's consequences after the choices.
Yeah, that's so good. I love what you were saying there. I like to tell my clients, if you're eating something and as you're eating it, you're having regrets and you're just beating yourself up, like put the fork down and walk away. Like if you're gonna eat it, enjoy it. Say to yourself, I'm enjoying every bite of this. And the other thing is that we I don't know about you because it sounds like most of your life you were healthy and it wasn't, or not healthy, but like you were at a healthy weight and it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. But for someone like me who I was just an emotional eater since a child, you start thinking about the holidays and instantly it goes to all that food. I know I'm going to eat too much. I'm going to feel awful. It's almost like you're bracing yourself as you're going into the holidays and all those temptations. And so just remembering, like, whatever the holiday is, generally it's one meal on one day, so like you said, there's that
Mm-hmm.
gray in between. It's one meal on one day. It's not a whole season of just eating whatever you want. Enjoy what you want on that day, be done with it, and then you move on without guilt.
And holidays too. We think about Christmas, and I'm in Canada, so we have our Thanksgiving is a little bit in October, so we have a bit more
Mhm.
space in between. But every part of the year has lots of holidays. I mean, there's New Year's, and then
Right,
there's
right.
Valentine's Day, and there's Easter, and there's birthdays, and there's staff parties, and there's there's lots of opportunities to,
Hmm.
like, it's not that special. Like it's great. It's one day, it's one meal, and that's it. And going back to the mindset, if you go into it thinking like, oh, I'm going to feel awful, I'm going to overeat, this is going to be so hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard, and you're going to overeat if that's what
Hmm.
you're focusing on, because
Hmm.
you bring into your life what you speak and what you call into it.
Yeah.
So it's really about asking yourself again, what does it look like so that I can feel good and enjoy it?
Yeah.
And there probably means that there's going to be some parameters that you're not going to eat 5 pieces of cake, because you know what, we've all done that before.
Hmm.
And if we're honest with ourselves, it doesn't feel good. Like, that's not
Right.
living our best life. So it's really about, again, asking yourself the better questions and seeing what that looks like. Another great thing for the holidays is to focus on food in terms of, think about like, what are the choices that are going to make me feel great, and what are the things that are really like that I really do enjoy, because sometimes we just eat things because they're there, or we're
Mhm.
mindlessly eating it. We're not even paying attention. We're just like, and it's like, why? So give
Yeah.
your food the respect, and enjoy it, but make like but focus on why you're there too, which is also about connection and family
Yes.
and everything else.
Yeah, so true. I think that the deprivation mode, that's just an indicator of going to the other side. I don't know. What has that been your experience with your clients you work with?
Well, there's deprivation, feeling deprived and
Yeah.
restricting.
Yeah.
I think of them as two different things,
Okay.
because when you are eating foods in a way that to make yourself feel good, especially if you are overcoming like emotional eating, there is some, or if you have weight loss goals, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit
Mhm.
together, there is absolutely some restriction. You're not going to go and eat like, just go and eat like, I'm just going to have like, all breaks are off and eat whatever I want. But the feeling of deprivation doesn't have to happen. And that's what you focus on. So if you
Mm.
focus on like maximally enjoying your food and slowing down with it and being grateful for the food and loving on the food and focusing on family and everything else, and food just like within a week of one of my program, my 6 week transformation program, so many women are saying like, I just don't even think about food anymore. I'm not obsessing about food anymore. So they don't feel deprived. It's just food. Like they can just
Mhm.
choose it.
Mhm.
And so yes, there's a restriction. Like if you want to feel good around the holidays, you'll probably be eating less than you might have in the past, because I've done it before many times where I've gone way off and eaten way more than my body needs on the holidays. And I hate it.
Yeah.
I can't sleep. I am like, it doesn't feel good. So there is some in the moment restriction, because we can kind of get caught up with the flow, and then the wine happens, and then like Aunt Susan brings out her special pecan pie, and then your friends, your family's like, oh, live a little, and we'll you never know when you'll eat again. So that always comes up in my family. But and if you focus on like, oh, I can't have this, yeah, you're going to feel deprived. But if you focus on like, no, I want to feel good in my body, I want to honor my body, I want to eat the foods that I love and make me feel good, then you can do all of it without feeling deprived. So
Mhm.
it's all about where you put your mind,
Yeah.
and that matters.
Yeah. And I want to tag on to that. I agree 100%. And I want to tag on to that as well, as someone who, for years and years, I would eat all the things because, oh, it's my mom's mashed potatoes. It's this, that, whatever, eating till literally over full, discomfort, can't sleep, like you said. It's also being aware of what's happening in our body, like understand, like listening to our fullness cues. And it goes back to what you said, that mindfulness of being aware of what we're eating, tasting it, experiencing it, appreciating it, and noticing how our body feels when it starts getting full. I mean, maybe you just need to take a bite of each thing so that you don't like fill up on
Mhm.
on one favorite and no room for the other. But I feel like so many of us, we're in such a hustle and bustle world, and we eat on the go so much, we're so busy that we've kind of lost touch with our hunger and fullness cues. So sometimes we wait too long to eat, we put it off.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm busy. And then you're famished and you're eating way too much, right? You go all the way to the other end, or like on the holidays, or whatever it is, you eat beyond full because it's just so good, but you're not taking the time. So I think it's also, you have to pay attention to those cues in your body. And that is a matter of awareness. We have to slow down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we have all these thoughts like, if you're eating, you're like, oh, I've got the food so good, I'll never have it again. Or
Mhm.
it's a special occasion, or everyone else just gets to eat. Like those are the kind of thoughts that are going to make you feel deprived. But
Yeah.
when you have thoughts like, you know what, food tastes better when I'm hungry, and
Yeah.
or I've had enough and I'm ready to like feel good, and you focus
Mhm.
on like the future of actually going through the holidays and feeling good afterwards,
Mhm.
then again, you can do all of it without the feeling of being deprived.
Yeah. So good. So we talked a lot about mindset, emotional eating and all of that. And then part of that is that gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. So I don't know, you think we covered that? It's really being aware of our mindset and shifting those thoughts, would you say?
It is, and what I shared also in the Healthiest Summit, and I want to just go over this a little bit too, is that
Mhm.
it's really about putting intention into the mindset piece.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens: like in my programs, I go through 3 different phases. One's called See It,
Mhm.
then Do It, and Live It. And See It is all about creating the routines, setting yourself up for success so that you can be consistent. Because what we do so often is that we like go headfirst into the plans, whether it is mindful eating or maybe you're doing like or something like a Whole30 or whatever you're doing, or you're like, I'm going to
Mhm.
eat better, I'm going to move my body, all these things. You just like go headfirst into the plans without ever setting yourself up for success. And then we wonder why we don't get sick with it, because we get distracted, we lose focus,
Yeah.
we don't have the routines, the systems, the structures, so that we can be consistent. And when I talk about the routines that I teach in that see it phase, it's not about routines like, oh, like eat breakfast or drink water in the morning or stretch for 5 minutes a day for mobility. It's actually the routine so that you do whatever you need to do consistently. And
Mhm.
it's like this framework so that you can just put in whatever you're working on a regular basis. And this framework works for any goal, whether it is weight loss or healthier eating or fitness or relationships or building a business. Honestly, they're all going to be very, very, very similar. And then the do it phase, what I teach is actually what to do, because and it's so super simple, but important, because even the best mindset's not going to help if you're fighting physiology and you're not nourishing your body properly.
Yeah.
And then the last phase, which we do really throughout the entire program, is called Live It, which is all about removing the barriers that have tripped you up in the past. So the emotional eating, the stress eating, the overwhelm, the parties, the celebrations, the effort eating, that I don't care anymore eating, all the things there. But then also to create the life that you want to live, because quite often we use food to escape from
Yeah.
life. And it's
Mhm.
about also bringing joy to the journey and creating the life that you want to live, so that food becomes food and not the thing that you're numbing out with. But going
Mhm.
back to the routines, and I'll just share like a couple of really simple ones here. Number one is to get clear on where you want to go. And
Yeah.
clarity on where you want to go doesn't always mean, like, it evolves with time. We don't always know exactly what we want. Sometimes we start with what we don't want, and that's a good place. But over time, you want to get clear on like where you're going. But
Mhm.
then to remind yourself of that every day. Like, I
Yeah.
can't tell you, nobody, except for those who I work with and a couple other, read their goals every day or write
Yeah.
their goals every day. And,
Yeah.
and we wonder why we go through the motions of it and we're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But without that emotion, without that connection, we
Yeah.
lose focus. And because we have busy lives. So it's not your fault. It's just that we're human. And yeah, like unless we build up that desire, that emotional connection to where we want to go on a regular basis, then it's really easy to get distracted. And
Yeah.
having some sort of routine where you actually practice the mindset, because quite often we think these things, I just need to think differently, I just need to work on the mindset. It's like, well, what does that look like? And
Yeah.
actually having the practice to work on the mindset. So making that the practice each day, not just that hoping it's going to work. And then
Mhm.
one routine that we do each day too is creating our plan for the day. It's so simple, but actually writing down what winning looks like for the day. And that's going to be different depending on whether it's Christmas Day or whether it is like another day of the holidays or you're on vacation. But being realistic and creating your plan and knowing that your plan that you're starting with may not be the plan that you're going to do forever. You can definitely build capacity over time, but also that it's about building trust with yourself,
Yeah.
because we are so used to breaking promises to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we wonder then why we don't like ourselves, because we don't trust ourselves and we're really mean to ourselves. So it's not, it's, you're worth building a great relationship with yourself. And it does come through that trust piece. And that starts from building those, setting those clear goals on a daily basis and creating follow through for them, like actually putting your like doing actions that are going to move you towards where you want to be. Because just reading your goals every day without action is not going to get you there.
Yeah.
And working on the mindset without action is not going to get you there either.
Yeah. So true. And there's a lot you said there that I love. And we share the same, approach and philosophy on that. And I like to call it as having like a macro vision, but a micro focus, right? The macro vision, knowing the big picture. Why do I want to be healthier? Why do I want to take good care of myself? That big picture that has to be compelling, like you said, every day. And also, like you said, it has to be so intentional. That takes
Mhm.
work. And like our ego fights that. We don't want to do the work. We just give me, a cabbage soup recipe, you know. But,
I know. I know.
then there's
I know. And
there's
I
the
have,
micro too. The micro is like being very intentional. Like, what does today look like? How can I measure for success? And then thinking smaller, right? I think you
mm,
you talk about that as well, right?
yeah. Yeah. It has to be like a 9.5 out of 10 confidence, right? That you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And your brain's going to tell you all the different things. Like your brain's going to tell you that's not enough. I should be doing more. If I only do
Mhm.
this, then I'm never going to get there, all the things. But the reality is that we're not doing the big things anyway, or not consistently. So yes,
So
you will get
true.
there faster if you did all the things and you did them all really well consistently. But the reality is you're not. And
Yep.
so let's not fight reality.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that. Let's do something different and play the long game and actually get there. Or I mean, get there. There is no there, but move in the direction we want to go. We want to be going consistently over
Yeah.
time.
And celebrating the wins, the small wins, right? I love it's so important what you said about um keeping trust with ourselves, breaking trust with ourselves. We have that incongruency of what we want to do and what we're actually doing, and when it doesn't come together, it's just like we disappoint ourselves if we're not aware of it, right? But that's what's
Mm-hmm.
happening subconsciously. And so I
Mm-hmm.
love how you bring that to light. Like, this is actually what's going on in your mind. So let's focus on being intentional, looking at your day realistically, small goals, things that you can, like you said, a 9 to 10 commit to, and then celebrate that. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
hard for women, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, for lots of different
Celebrate, that
reasons.
is, to
And
celebrate, because there's
yeah.
always this perfectionist mindset. Oh, but it wasn't
Mhm.
big enough, right?
Oh yeah, no, and that's actually that's we have a few habits that we work on. That's one of the ones that I coach right at the beginning. And for a lot of women, they don't even recognize them. My clients don't recognize what they're doing until
Mhm.
we touch base with them, or they touch in every week. So I know what they're working on, what's going well, what's not going well. That we coach every week as well. And until they do that check-in, sometimes because I do ask them specifically what's going well.
Mhm.
And until they do that, sometimes they're like, I don't know. I don't know, because we often compare ourselves to some made up standard that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's why the wins don't feel like wins, is because we think that it should be bigger or it should be something different. And the win, or that it should be different all the time. Like the win could be going to doing your workout, even if you work out every single day for the last 10 years. Like that's a win. It's
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, okay, I walked by my son's bedroom multiple times today and I had one Kit Kat and not 10 because he all has Halloween candies on the floor. Actually, I have not taken any of his candy. He gave me one Kit Kat the other day, but he's away at school all day. So how easy is that? That's a win. Putting down your fork between bites, that's a win. Deciding that you're going to have, one of my habits right now is that I'm working on is to have 1 cup of coffee in the morning instead of 2. I have been super consistent with that for about 2-3 months now. That's a huge win.
Mhm.
And the winning doesn't have to be all of the wins all a day. I had one client, she thought that in order to celebrate the wins, her entire day had to be perfect. And
Mhm.
I'm like, what? You had a perfect day? Like, tell me about that. Because it never happens. So
Right.
it's about and this, you're right here, what you said there, Robin, about the congruency, being in alignment with yourself, is so huge. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of the discomfort that we feel when we're not doing the things that we know we could do, should do, want to do, is
Yeah.
just that it's a low grade, like, veil over life. Like it's just like,
Mhm.
it's like life is happening and I kind of got this like cloud over me. It's
Yeah.
not like this intense pain point as in like I can't fit into any of my clothes. It just feels like just kind of and that's worth changing. But celebrating the wins is part of the identity statement. or
Mhm.
stepping to the identity of the person who takes care of herself. Because otherwise you do the things, you check the boxes, but you never close the loop of building that identity.
Yeah.
And until you do that, and like, yeah, I did that. And this is going to be going from whether it's health and fitness or weight loss your or your relationship with your spouse or God or whatever, like whatever you say, like if your goal is to have a deeper connection with your spirit guides or God, and you spend a couple minutes every day in prayer, like celebrate that, because now
Mhm.
you're tying this connection, like you are the person who has a deeper relationship with God. Or if you are deciding that every day I'm going to read to my child because being a great mom is important to me, then reinforce the fact that you did that, so that you're now stepping into the identity of the mom you want to
Mhm.
be.
Mhm.
And then when you have the identity, all of it becomes so much easier, because you're not fighting this, like, I'm trying to be the certain way and I'm using willpower. It's just who you are. It's
Yes.
so important. And it's not just about I mean, it is also just about feeling good along the way, because honestly, we get permission to feel good, and we're after a feeling. Everything that you pursue, we want a feeling, but we don't let ourselves feel the feeling we're after. And so then we
Yeah.
wonder why we don't stick with it. It's because we don't ever feel like it. And then we think, what's the point of doing all this healthy eating stuff? Because I don't feel good, because I'm always moving the goalpost on myself, and I could always do better. I could always do more. And it's just this like cycle that just drains us, and it sucks. So
Yep. Yep.
do something different.
So I think that's a perfect segue when you were talking about identity. And this is where maybe I think we basically have the same point of view, but slightly different. So I come in contact with a lot of women where their identity is in their weight
Mhm.
and how much they weigh. So they're all about losing weight because if they're a certain size or if they're under a certain number, then they feel valuable. So one of the things that is important to me is I never talk about losing anything. To me, you're not losing anything, you're releasing, right? But also kind of like what along the lines of what you said, what we're looking for is actually that feeling of feeling good, of feeling confident, those feelings behind it. It just kind of, we think that it's weight loss, but it's not. So I don't talk about losing weight. I talk about your identity and finding who you are. So what is your opinion on that? Because you do help women lose weight, right? So
Uh,
how do you handle that?
yeah, really good question. And I went back and forth a lot about this, to be perfectly honest, because I went like, because I agree. I think it's a lot more than the weight loss. But by not addressing what women wanted, I was also not listening to where they were at and what they were coming from and what was important to them.
Mm.
And we have a lot of guilt and shame in our life, where we are guilty and we feel shameful when we gain weight, and then we feel guilty and shameful for wanting to lose weight. And I want to say, if you want to lose weight, give yourself permission to want what you want. Like, I think it's
Mhm.
really important that we do our, like, yeah, if you want to be, if you want to just look hot in a bikini and on your vacation, like, you get to want what you want. And so give yourself permission to that. Now, when though, and here's the cool thing, and also from a marketing perspective, like, women come to me because they want to lose. That's in their mind. That's what they think about. That's what they want. But as we go through the process, like, pretty soon after, they realize it's so much more than that.
Mhm.
It's so much more than that. And yes, they lose weight. But it's the natural consequence of them taking care of themselves. And that's you're like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like yes.
And that's what happens. Like, I
Yeah.
have one woman who she's been with me for 6 months, and she's continuing on. And she has significant weight to lose. The first bit, she did not lose very much weight. She did it very slowly, but a couple, but now she's starting to get it, because she had to release the mental weight first.
Mhm.
Like, she had to release all of the other stuff so that she wasn't just holding on to this protection anymore. And
Yeah.
then you start to get the results. And then your body, like, we don't know what we're supposed to weigh. And to be perfectly honest, like, I know there's like the health at any size, there's lots of different things. I do believe that the body is not supposed to be 300 pounds. Like, it's not. Like, we do better when we're not. So there's a range there that is going to be the best weight for you. And I
Mhm.
don't know what that is. It's when you do it in a way that is focusing on the inner stuff along the way, it's often slower. I can tell you that. And especially if you've been dieting for many years before, you don't just drop weight like that. And your body's like, hey, I'm done.
Mhm.
But it's the consequence of taking care of yourself. And the cool thing is that when you focus on that, and yes, like you can want to feel good and do that and lose weight. Like you could have your weight loss as part
Yeah.
of your goal. Like let it be there, but don't let it be the only thing, because then you're going to get so hyper focused on that. And it becomes this condition of like, I will love myself when I'm this weight. And it becomes conditional love. And we don't thrive well with conditional love with ourselves. But when you focus on taking good care of yourself and having energy and feeling good, and you talked about the why, and actually a client just brought this up to me the other day, which I thought was really powerful. She's like, sometimes our why is just because we want to feel good. Like it's just, and I'm like, yeah, of course. But it just made me realize that sometimes we think our why needs to be like this big earth shattering thing. I was like, no, I just want to feel good in my body. I just want to have more energy, which is a valid, awesome,
Mhm.
worthy reason of going and doing the things you want to do. But when you focus on that, the actions are the same. Like you're still going to eat better. You're still going to eat more vegetables. You're going to eat when you're hungry. You're going to stop when you're satiated. You're not going to just eat, numb out with a bag of chips at nighttime. But the feeling is different. The intention is different, and
Yeah.
that changes everything. It's a
Yeah.
really cool process. Like and I had a client actually. She just emailed me yesterday. She's like, Tanya, guess what? Like, I put away all my taking out all my winter clothes, and she's like, stuff that never fit me, like ever, in the last year. She's like, it's fitting me again. And she's like, I used to be a size like extra large. I'm a size medium. This feels amazing. But she also reached her goals besides the weight loss within the first 2 to 3 weeks of working together. Like
Mhm.
she learned how to love herself. The weight didn't even matter anymore. And then when she started that, then the natural consequence was like, yeah, your body's going to start to drop the weight. And I love actually what you said about just releasing the weight, because that's what it is, because we
Yeah.
don't need it. We don't need it anymore.
Yeah, so good. And yeah, I love everything that you said about that. And when you were talking about that buffer, we sometimes we use our weight as that buffer to kind of isolate it, protects us, protects our feelings. And
Totally.
just like we can use food for numbing, we can use dieting for numbing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we both agree that it really comes down to self-care, self-love, valuing ourselves and caring enough to nourish and nurture ourselves well. And when we do that, like everything gets better, right? Because we reduce our stress, which is also a factor. I mean, it's not just food
Totally.
and exercise that affect our weight. It's a lot of different factors, and some of it is genetic or whatever. So it's learning to get curious, find out what's going on, and then, like you said, having a strategy, having a plan, being intentional, being mindful. That's not sexy on a billboard, right?
No,
It's
I
not
know.
like
I know.
drink this diet tea or whatever,
I
right?
know. Oh my gosh. I know. And sometimes I just so wish like my morals and my ethics just doesn't allow me to do it, because I know how wrong it is. And it's so against me, but I know how great I'm like, oh, it'd be so easy and so like good, just like to blow up your business when you do that. But it's not congruent with my beliefs and
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
And I think also too, for so many women, like they've done it so many times that they're just done with it, and they know that there's something different. And
Yeah.
we almost need to go through all of it
Yeah.
and experience for ourselves that it doesn't work
Yes.
before we're ready for something else. But you're right, it's not sexy. But losing 10 pounds and gaining 20 isn't sexy either.
Right. That's
That doesn't feel
right.
good either. So I prefer this way.
I love it. I love it. I have really, really enjoyed talking with you today. I hope that we'll continue to connect and collaborate in any way that we can. And I would love for you to share any links or contact information for our listeners if they want to reach out and learn more about you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robin. So I'm also a podcaster, and we're just about to record another podcast where you're
Yeah.
going to come on the Fit and Vibrant You. So I have a podcast called the Fit and Vibrant You podcast. I've been doing it since 2015. It's a weekly show. If you're a podcast listener, which I'm guessing you are, that's a great place to connect. And you can find me on Instagram at Tanja, TANJA_Shaw, at I think on Facebook on the same thing. And if you go to fitvibrant50.com, that's fit vibrant, the number 50.com, I have a free training there on the 3 steps that have helped hundreds of other women really get to their happy, healthy body weight naturally, permanently, and without the obsession. So that is there for you as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. I hope that this episode really enlightened you and gave you strategies to feel your best over the holidays and the days beyond. And we will see you soon. Peace out.